Yeah. So what did we do last day? We discussed the forces on uh, vector notation. No, that means two dimensions. Forces acting on I and j directions, and we did so many questions on those, and there are some questions left for us to do now. And I will start with that, and thereafter move on to the uh, exercise number 4E. Some of you have already started, so you can continue your work and check whether you answers, and if I am discussing some important points, then you can uh, pay attention on those. Okay, uh, let's go on. Let's go on to exercise 4D, question number 8. Okay, exercise 4D, question number 8. In case I saw that Tinuka and Imash, I thought, as I believe you were not in the last day when we started the lesson 4, but there are links. But you can't have the link on the first day of the lesson because we did it in the school, the physical class. So I will give you a little bit of reminder what we did so far. Basically, we learned how to draw what force diagrams. Okay, force diagrams. If I am drawing a person like this, person is standing on a earth. What are the forces acting on him? If we consider a person, he has a weight, mass, no? So we get his mass, the forces due to his mass as weight. Weight equals mass times the gravitational acceleration. When we are doing calculations, we take this gravitational acceleration as G equals 9.81. And what are the other forces acting on this person? So when he is acting, standing up on the earth, on his legs, there are reactions coming from the what? Earth for himself, no? So these will be the forces acting on him. Like this, when a scenario is told to us, we should be able to mark the forces acting upon them. Like if we throw upside the stone in the air, usually we neglect air resistance. If there is a air resistance available, it is given in the question. So in a situation where a pebble is thrown upward, what are the forces acting upon it? It also has a mass, so mass times the gravitational acceleration, mg, no? So we call it the weight. Weight is one of the forces acting on this, and there are no other forces if we are told to neglect the air resistance. And some situations like lift, when we are lifting something up with a string, something, what are the forces acting upon this one? There will be a tension on the particles that it is uh, on the string or whatever the thing connected to move it upward, and the weight of this body or the item. Okay, so like that we learned how to draw the simple force diagrams. It is a very essential part when we are dealing in this lesson. We should be able to read and understand what are the forces acting on a body. Sometimes some forces are said, some forces are not said. So basically we have to understand if it is if we are resolving forces in vertical direction, we have to consider about the weight. Okay. Okay, then we discussed about the Newton's first law. What was the first law? If there is an unbalanced, if there is an unbalanced force in an object, what does it going to happen? It begins to move. That means if there is no unbalanced force in an object, it is in rest or it is moving in a constant velocity. Okay, thereafter we discussed, actually then we discussed about the Newton's second law, which basically we got this equation, force equal mass times the acceleration, and we learned to resolve the forces also in the vertical direction and horizontal directions. After resolving, we learned how to get the resultant by using the Pythagoras theorem when the forces are given in INJ notation. Okay, and yesterday we did how to resolve, how to connect this equation F equal ma in the vector notation. Okay, so we are going to continue that exercise and move on to the Newton's third law situation. Okay, all of you try to do the question number 8. Some, I hope most of you who were present yesterday have done it. It doesn't matter you are there or not. Just check it. Okay. Oh my God. Give me a second. My the ping that the whiteboard was hanging is broken. I will fix it as soon as possible. Okay. I will stop the video for a moment.
Okay, sir.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, it's in good condition now. Exercise 4D, question number 8. Well, what is the question number 8 saying? The forces F1, F2, and F3 act on a particle, and they have given us the three forces. Given that this particle is in equilibrium, determine the value P and the value of Q. Okay, so they are giving us at F1, F2, F3. No, F1 is how much? Minus 3, 7J. F1 is how much? Minus 3I plus 7J. How much is the force 2? Value of force 2? That is I minus J. I minus J. And the force 3 is Pi plus Qj. Okay, so these are the forces given to us. And then what they are asking, given that the particle is in equilibrium, and they are asking us to find values for P and Q. So what is mean by this equilibrium means? That means either the object is moving with a constant velocity or it is at rest. That means there is no resultant force. The value of the resultant force acting on this body is how much? It should be equal to 0. Okay. So when the resultant force is 0, either in the direction of I or in the direction of J, what is going to happen? The net the sum of the forces along the I-axis and J-axis, they also should be equal to 0. That is the theory behind this part. If you are not understanding that part, now try to catch it. That is the most important thing. So what is the theory, what they're saying when this object is in equilibrium? Now, when the object is in equilibrium, when we add these forces, F1 plus F2 plus F3, when we add these three forces, the total result should be equal to how much? 0. Okay, so that is your theory behind this when the object is in equilibrium. Okay, so another way to say equilibrium is it can be said the object is at rest or moving with a constant velocity. So the resultant of all these three forces should be equal to 0. Now what we can do? Now we can add these three. In the place of force 1, I can write minus 3I plus 7J. In the place of force 2, I can write I minus J. In the place of force 3, I can write Pi plus Qj. Okay, so the resultant should be equal to 0. Now, I am going to add the I components. What do I get? Minus 2 plus P times I plus, here it becomes 6 plus Qj should be equal to 0. So what do I have here? Minus 2 plus P, 6 plus Q. And when we got the equation like this, the sum of the I and J components are equal to 0, what can we say? We can separately equalize the I components, coefficients of I equal to 0 and coefficients of Q equal to 0. So now we can write minus 2 plus P should be equal to 0 or 6 plus Q should be equal to 0. Here if we solve this, how much we are getting? P should be equal to 2 or Q should be equal to minus 6. So again, try to pick up the theory, the underlying theory. So it's addition of these it's not a big deal. It's just simple addition, no? Or a grade 5 student can do this kind of simplifications and finding P. But to find P, what are the theories that we have to keep in our mind? Uh, when the object is in equilibrium, total sum of these forces should be equal to 0. Keep in your mind that thing. And when it is in the vector notation and the resultant is 0, either in the I direction or J direction, the resultant should be equal to 0. Because this component should be equal to 0, we can write this. And the J component also should be equal to 0, so we can write this. That is how we got the P and Q. Okay, if you have any questions, you can raise, okay, or just put in the chat so I can understand, okay, and try to help you. Okay, so thereafter, what do we have to think about? What about the part 2? Now I am going to erase, okay. I am going to erase this side. What about the part 2? They are saying force F2 is removed. The force 2 is removed given that the first 10 seconds of its motion, the particle travels a distance of 12 meters. Within the first 10 seconds, it travels, and find the mass of the particle in kilograms. Okay, so what is our question? Now we have to find the mass. They are asking how much is the mass is. Okay, but before that, they are giving us some data. What are the data? They say F2 is removed. Now F2 is not available. Okay, and what else they are saying? They are saying within the when this force is removed, the object moves how many meters? 12 meters. 12 meters within how many seconds? 10 seconds. 12 meters within 10 seconds. The object has moved. Now what we can do? And now they are asking us what is the mass of the object. Now let's think how to do it. When the force 2 is removed, now we can find what? The resultant force acting on this object. How to find the resultant force? Now there is a net force acting upon it because this is not available. So now we can't say this is the sum of all these three is equal to 0 because this is F2 is not there. So now if we get the resultant, we can get the resultant force by doing what? We can add force 1 and force 3. By addition of the force 1 and force 3, we can get the resultant force now. So what do we get for the resultant force here? Force 1 we know how much? Minus 3I plus 7J. And force 3, now we don't need to write Pi plus Qj. We know the values for P and Q. We have found. How much is P? P is 2I minus 6J. So when we solve three component I components, we got minus I. And what about J components? We got plus J. So the resultant force acting on the body is minus I plus J. Okay. And I'm going to erase this part. So note this down. Now what do we have here? We have the resultant force acting on the body. Now what can we do? Now they are asking the mass. If you look at the equation, F equals ma, force equals mass times the acceleration, can we find the mass now? Now we can apply for the force. Total forces acting upon it is minus I plus J. But we don't know both of these. We don't know mass and we don't know the acceleration. So still we can't find the mass because there are two unknowns. For that, what is going to happen? They have given us some other data. What is it? Within 12 meters, the object goes to 10 seconds. Now we can combine motion equations also with these vectors. What are the motion equations we know? V equals u plus at. V squared equals u squared plus 2as. S equals ut plus half at squared, or there is a similar one, what? Vt minus half at squared. Why I am writing this again and again? You should be, these equations should be in your mind. Okay, you can't be like after 2-3 months you can't go back to the pages and find these equations. Okay, these equations should be in your mind. And actually it's better if you can remember how we proved these equations, okay, by drawing a what velocity time graph and how we derived this. Actually there was another equation, S equals u plus v divided by 2 times t. Okay, how we derived this first equation, this equation and this equation, and using those equations the other 3 equations are built. Okay, so if you are not familiar with what I am telling, what is the best advice, you should better again go through the beginning of the lesson number 2. Okay, go to the beginning of the lesson number 2 and try to revise these things. Okay, so what is the equation now? We need to find the acceleration, because to apply force equals mass times the acceleration, we don't know the acceleration. Acceleration is in all of these, no? But what are the data we have? We have some sort of a distance, we have time, and if you look at all these equation, how many variables are there, how many unknowns? All has 4. That means there should be some other data that they have given us. What is that? The object is at rest and it is moving, no? So the initial velocity we can consider as 0. Okay, the initial velocity of the object is 0. So all these, what is the equation? We can go for S equals ut plus half at squares. Depending on the data, we are thinking which equation to apply. Okay, so I am going to apply for that. S equals ut plus half at squared. How much is the distance? 12. And initial velocity is 0 times 10 plus half times the acceleration time 10 to the power 2. So what do we have here? 12 is equal to 100 times a divided by 2. See, when I am solving this also, if I could have written 100 divided by 2 as 50, but I'm not. Why? I need to find a, so I can take an 2 and 100 by multiplying by 2 and dividing by 100. Why did I keep 100 like it without getting 50? It is so easy for us to divide by 100. We got 24 divided by 100, how much? 0.224 is the answer, acceleration of this body. So acceleration equals 0.24 meters per square second. Okay, this is the acceleration of the body. Okay, so now we get the acceleration as well. Can we find the mass now? Do we know it? Now think, can we apply F equals mass times the acceleration? Yeah, we know the resultant force, but it is in the vector format. This is not in the vector format. We know only the magnitude of the acceleration. So we can't apply like minus I plus j should be equal to mass times 0.24. If we write like this, it is going to be wrong. Okay, so we have to find the magnitude of this one also. What is the magnitude? Magnitude of this force. Oh, we know how to get the magnitude by using the Pythagoras relationship, no? Minus 1 to the power 2 plus 1 to the power 2. How much? We got square root 2 here. So the magnitude of the resultant force is square root 2. And now we can apply this equation. Instead of applying minus I plus j, what can we write? When we are applying force equals mass times the acceleration, you can apply square root 2 of Newton should be equal to mass times 0.24. So mass should be equal to square root 2 divided by 0.24 kilograms. How much are we getting? Are these the answers you got? Are there any differentiation with your answers? Dinush, is this correct the way you did it?
Ethan,
Sorry, I can't hear you.
which one?
Question number 8. Question number 8, part B. Page number 66. Okay.
0.24. And
Acceleration is 0.24. Yeah.
mass is
Mass, how much you got?
5.98.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Your answers are correct. Okay. 5.89. 5.89 kilograms. Okay. Is the procedure clear to you all? Now see, there are this is not a harder question, but there are tons of theories going behind. Okay, a lot of theories are going behind these questions. The sums, the simplifications, multiplications, and divisions they are very simple. Okay, but the concepts behind this, they are they are really amazing. See here, we could not have in the earlier instances we applied in vector notation also, ing notation in this side and the acceleration in this side, but here we got only the magnitude. So because we got the magnitude of the acceleration, we could not apply the vector equation here, so we need to find the magnitude of the resultant force as well. Okay. Okay, I will go to the question number 9. A particle mass okay. Now question number is somewhat similar to this question. If you understood this question, you should be able to catch up it quickly. Let's see now. Viranga, could you try the questions at home?
I did up to the 8th one, didn't do 9th.
Okay. Now quickly read out the question, try to understand what to do. That is the most important. If I just say you the answers or the method, if I am telling you the method, then the question is wasted. Okay, what is the thing that you should try to build up yourself? What is the method? How to go for the answer? Okay, so that is really important. Trying to understand what to do, how to go for the answer depending on the data. Okay. Okay, what it says, a particle of mass m, it is acted upon three forces, 5i6j, 5i6j, and what are the other forces? 2i 2i minus 2j. What else? minus I minus 4j. And they are saying it has a mass of m, and the acceleration of the particle is 7 meters per square second. It has a very high acceleration. Okay. Uh, Now how to find the mass? And they're asking it for 2 decimal places as well. So you will have to find it for 3 decimal places and round it. So how to find it? How can you find the mass of this object? First, depending on the data given, we can easily find what? The resultant force, no? And then we can apply for the F equals ma equation. What is the resultant force here? Force equals mass times, sorry, force should be equal to the sum of these 3 forces. So easily we can get the vector sum, no? What is the vector sum of these forces? 5i plus 6j, 2i minus 2j, minus I minus 4j. So what are the I components? 5, 2 and minus 1. So we get 6i, 6, 2, 4, no? And 4, 4, 0. So what is the resultant force? It is 6i only. There is no need to write 0j. Okay. Even though you write it, it will not make a big difference. Is that the same you are getting? Okay, so that means what? There is a net force acting upon this body with a magnitude of 6 newtons along the direction of I. Okay. And if you find the magnitude of the resultant forces, how much it will be? It will also be the same, no? If you put 0j here, so 6 to the power 2 plus 0 to the power 2, it will not make any difference. How much is the net force acting upon this? It is 6 newtons. Now we can easily apply force equals mass times the acceleration. F equals ma. Force we know 6, mass we know how much? We don't know. We are about to find the mass. And the acceleration, how much? They are given, it is 7. So to find mass, we have to divide both sides by 7. So the mass equals 6 over 7. It's a little calculation. Zero 0.86 kilograms. How much? 0.86 kilograms when you round off to 2 decimal places. This will be the mass of the object. See, depending on the data, it was easy for us to find the resultant force. And usually we get it in the vector notation, but the acceleration is given in which format? It was given in just the magnitude only. So we need only the magnitude of the force. We found it and then applied for the equation force equal mass times the acceleration. Okay. Try quickly go through the question number 10. Try to do the question number 10. Two forces, 2p q. We did similar kind of a question last day to this. So if you understood what we did last day, this question might not be that much a trouble, but there are some interesting theories going behind. Okay, let's see. Question number 10. Force is, there are two forces. What are 2, 5, P and Q. 2, 5, P and Q. These are the two forces acting upon the mass of M. And in the part 1, what they are saying? the direction of the r, resultant force of these two is parallel to the vector 1 minus 2. Okay. How to find? They are asking us to prove some kind of a equation to build it, no? What are they asking us to prove? They're asking us to show that 2p plus q plus 9 equals 0. 2p plus q plus 9 is equal to 0. They're asking us to show that. What is the data given? The resultant force of these two is equal to parallel to this one. Okay, how to find the resultant of this one? We can consider this as 2i plus 5j. This one we can consider as pi plus qj. So how to get the resultant? You just add these two forces. How much we are getting? 2 plus p I 5 plus q j. We have the resultant force here, and they are saying that is parallel to this vector. Yesterday I discussed a lot about this parallel. When the data is given, two vectors are parallel. What does that mean? The gradient, the line of action are the same. You know, when in coordinate geometry, what if two lines are parallel? That means the gradients of these two lines, straight line, should be equal. Similar thing to the vectors as well. How to find the gradient? I told you, no? Divide the coefficient. If you are still not familiar with this parallel thing, you can put a stand right. When two vectors are parallel, the gradient of, or the line of action of those forces should be equal. And how to get the gradient? You divide the coefficients of j with the coefficients of I. Okay, what are we doing to get the gradient of a force in the vector notation? You can divide the coefficients of j with the coefficients of I, and you have to consider the signs as well. Okay, I can think this as what? I minus 2j. Okay, so what is the gradient here? I j component divided by I component. What is the j here? 5 plus q. 5 plus q when we divide by how much? Coefficient of I. How much? 2 plus p. 2 plus p should be equal to how much we get here? Minus 2 divided by 1. Coefficient of I here is 1. Okay. And if you solve it, you will be able easily to get this one. Let's see. When we do the cross multiplication, we get 5 plus q in this side. In the other side, we get minus 4 minus 2p. When we take everything to one side, what are we getting? 2p plus q. This minus 4 becomes plus. So equals to 0. Yeah, part 1 is done. See. Yeah, so understanding the theory or keep reminding the theory is the most wanted thing. Okay. Then what is the part B? Given that also P equals 1 and that moves with an acceleration of magnitude 15 square root 5. Find the value of the mass. Okay, they are giving us how much is P. P is how much? They are saying P equals 2. And they are asking us the mass, and they have given the acceleration as well. How much is the acceleration? 15 square root 5. Okay, if we know P, what can we find? We can find Q using this equation, no? Then we know what is the resultant force on the object. This was the resultant force. Okay, this was the resultant force, and so we can find the resultant force. And what can we do? We can apply the force equals mass times the acceleration to find mass. Okay, quickly what we have to do? Thank you very much, Namita. P equals 1, no? Yeah, thank you. So then P, when P is 1, how much? P is 1, 2 times 1 plus Q plus 9 equals 0. So Q should be equal to how much? Minus 11. Q is equal to minus 11. So when we apply those in the resultant force, what do we have here? Resultant force should be equal to 2 plus 1, how much? 3i. Minus 11 plus 5, how much? Minus 6j. Okay. So the resultant force will be this much. And we need to get the magnitude of this one. Why? Only the magnitude of the force is acceleration is also given. So how to get the magnitude of this one? Get the square of these two and add them and get the square root again. 3 to the power 2 plus minus 6 to the power 2. How much? 9. And here we get 36. So altogether we are getting square root 45. Just keep it is if you know this is an entire surd, so you can convert this into a surd. Okay. Now we can apply force equals mass times acceleration. No, force equals mass times the acceleration. How much was the force? Resultant force is square root 45. Square root 45 should be equal to mass times the acceleration. It was how much? 15 times square root 5. Now think, you can do a little bit of conversion to this one. No, we can think 45 as 9 times 5. That means you can consider this as how much? 3 times square root 5 should be equals to m times 15 over, yeah, m equals 3 divided by 15, you got 1 over 5, which is equal to 0.2 kilograms. So we got the mass 0.2 kilograms. Tinuka, are these okay? Is there any things that you need to clarify that you don't understand? If any of you are don't know to move forward, just let me know. Okay, then I can click, I can get to know with your feedback where should I aim at, because uh, I am just teaching in a general process. There might be concerns, that means some person will not be able to solve this kind of simple equation. Someone of you will not be able to don't know how to get the resultant. So like that, some of you don't know what are the theories behind. So depending on your feedback, I can think you what sections you need to revise and like that. Okay, let's do the challenge as well. Try to go through the challenge.
So, how did you get the value for Q?
They have given us P equals how much? They have given us P equals 1, no? Did you see that data? They have given us
Yes.
it straight away, and we have proved this equation for the part 1, part A. How much? 2p plus q plus 9 equals 0. We got that equation, no? Now in this equation, how many unknowns are there? P and q only the unknowns. When we know the p, what we can do? We can find q, no? I substitute in this equation the value of p. You see here, 2 times 1 becomes 2. 2 plus q plus 9. This is not q, this is 9, okay? 2 plus q plus 9 equals 0. So we get the value for q, which is equal to minus 11. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay. I have it's okay to ask any type of question that comes to you. Okay. Why? Because in mathematics, when we are learning maths, the things going to repeat. Okay. Basically, the very first lessons are going to repeat again and again in the next lessons. Now you see the first 3 lessons, they are always repeating, no? The things that you will have learned in the first 3 lessons of only in the what I got the mechanics. In the first lesson, you learned how to model things. Now we are straight away applying those models, thinking the object as particles and like that. And in the lesson 2, what you did? You did learn about the motion equations. And in these lessons, we just apply them, no? In the place where they are needed. And in the lesson 3, you might have learned a bit about the vectors. Now it is ton of vectors here, no? So all the things are going to adapt for the future lessons. So get familiarized with this very soon. Or if you are having difficulties, let me know, okay? Because for the future lessons, these will be straight away applied, no? Like that. If you go back like 5 years back, what did you learn? You learn the basic mathematical operations, how to square root, how to factorize, and those kind of stuff, no? But later you then discovered those are just tiny particles. That means basic things that we need to solve the other questions. Now these also, what will happen to this? This will also be like what, learning those factorizing kind of stuff, because these theories will be applying in the future questions again and again. Okay, so we can't skip one part and move to the other part. You need to clear all the doubts and also have some sort of a experience. Okay, practice is also a must. I think I have told you this quote earlier as well. If not, you can write it in front page of your book. What is the quote? My wise man has said, there is no substitution to practice. Okay, there is no shortcut. Basically, as students, what we are trying to find always the shortcuts, but for the practicing there is no shortcut. Okay, we will have to do the job. So it needs some sort of a practice as well. Okay, moving forward, I will go to the challenge. Okay. A particle of mass 0.5 kilogram is acted on by 2 forces. Mass is 0.5 kilograms. And 2 forces, what are the 2 forces? 4I, K2K. 4I and K and 2K. Ki plus 2k k. This is minus, no? Minus 4. And they say k is a positive constant. So you have to pay the attention to all these tiny details. They are saying k is a positive constant. That means k is greater than 0 as well. Okay. Given that the particle is acceleration at a rate of this much, find the value of k. Acceleration is 8 times square root of 17. Okay. What you will be having to do? You can see that the mass is given, acceleration is given, some sort of data is also given, and what they are asking, they are asking how much is k. So how can we find k? Try to think what is the procedure to go for the answer. And if you have thought of it, you just do it. Don't wait till I am doing to check whether is that the correct method that you thought. It's okay. You do one method, then cut it. Okay. You have to. How fast you will make mistakes will determine how fast you are learning. Okay. Don't worry whether you go wrong or not. Now we can find the resultant force. No, what is the resultant force? Can get it by adding these two vectors, minus 4i plus ki plus 2kj. How much we are getting? Minus 4 plus k I plus 2kj. And we know only the magnitude of the acceleration and we know the mass. So we can apply straight away F equals ma, but before that we will have to do something. What we have to do? Get the magnitude of this resultant force. How to get the magnitude here? We can get the modulus. How to get the modulus of R? How much? Minus 4 plus k to the power 2 plus 2k power 2. It's okay. Now we are moving on with the k and finally get the square root of it. We can simplify a little, no? How much we get in this side. So simplification of these can't be a big matter for you by now. Okay. So if this simplifying of these it takes a lot of, if those simplifications take a lot of time of you, you should go to the chapter 1 of pure mathematics, okay, and do a revision. That means revise all the things, how to do quickly, move on with this. How much we are getting? Square of the first term, 16. Twice the 2 times of this product of these two terms. How much? 8k. K squared plus 4k to the power 2. How much are we getting here? 5k to the power 2 minus 8k plus 16 square root. This will be the how much? Our resultant force. And now we can think, keep it like this, and now we can apply for that equation. Force equals mass times the acceleration. How much is the force? Something in the square root sign equals mass is 0.5 times the acceleration, 8 times square root 17. And here, what we have to do? See, this square root sign times 4 times square root 7. Now it is a mess to deal with the square root sign. We can get the square of the both sides. So we get how much here? 5k to the power 2 minus 8k plus 16 should be equal to power 2 of this one. How much? 16 times 17. When you take those things to this side, how much you get? Here also 16. You get, reduce 116, no? So it is 16 times 16. So 5k squared minus 8k minus 256 should be equal to 0. Can we factorize this one? I hope so. Or if not, you can go for the equation. Let's give it a try to factorize this one. So 256 into 5 minus, that will be our what things to factorize. 256 is 2 to the power 8. So it's like 32, no? So you can think of like 32 times how much? 8 times 5. Yeah, we can factorize this one. 5k to the power 2 minus 40k plus 8, 32k, no? Plus 32k minus 256 equals 0. See, we can, if you have wondered how did I get these two factors, I will write it here, okay? I got the multiplication of these two. How much? Minus 256 times how much? 5. This is the number that we have to factorize. So since we have to factorize, I am not going to get the total value by multiplying by 5. It will not make the things easy for me. So then I think the factors of 256, that is the 2 to the power 8. If you are familiarized a bit with IT, you should know there are no other factors to 215 other than the powers of 2. So I thought this as 2 to the power how much? Something, yeah, 8 times 5. So how can I make from the addition minus 8? So I thought of the powers, like I can think like 256 as 32 times 8, no? Times 5. Now what can I say? 8 and 5, you can build 40. And here 30. If we get minus 40 and plus 32, job is done. Okay, so 5k we can take out much k. And if this factorizing mode is harder, you could have gone for the which method? Completing square method. Okay, completing square method, that is also you can get easily the answers, but I don't recommend you to use the equation. Okay, it will basically it will reduce your mathematical skills. It's like using the calculator. Okay, so minus 8 plus 32 k minus 8. So k minus 8, 5k plus 32 should be equal to 0. So k should be equal to either 8 or k should be equal to minus 32 over 5. In the beginning it is a, what is said? K is a positive constant. So what do we have to do? K equals 8 is the only answer that we can accept. Actually, the theories of this lesson for this question is very limited. The rest is simplification. Hope you understood. If you have any questions, just ask. Okay.
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Sabri, is that correct? Have you tried this before?
Yes, I
Okay.
got that correct.
Okay, good, great. Okay, so let's move on to the connected particles. Now we just did some kind of introduction last day, and let's in this part also, what is the most important thing when we are dealing with these connected particles? How to draw the force diagrams. Okay, if you can draw the force diagram, correct force diagrams, then rest is very easy. If you are drawing the force diagram partially, then the questions will be a bit complicated. So let's try to draw some force diagrams. Okay. Okay. Now you try to draw the force diagrams for this one when two things are connected. Like there is a mass m1 and there is a mass m2, and those two masses on a table, and the table is on the ground. Okay, this is a table, and this is like think there is a book on a book, and this book is on the table. Okay, table is on the floor, on the ground. Okay, now try to do the force diagrams acting on table, mass 2 and mass 1. Okay, now separately think. You can think in many ways. You can think the whole system at once. What I need is the force diagram separately for mass 1, force diagram separately for mass 2, and the force diagram for the mass 3. For the mass 1, what is the force diagram? This is not that much visible, no? Mass 1, the top one. What will be the force diagram? There is the weight. There is the weight of this one book. For how to get the weight? Mass multiplied by the gravity. Okay, mass times the gravity, you get the weight. Mg, weight equals mg. What are the other forces acting on this one? Are there any forces acting on this one? If you think no, then you can think of the Newton's first law. What is the first law? If there is an unbalanced force acting upon a body, it should move. Okay, it should accelerate. But this book or whatever, this mass is not accelerating, it is at rest. So there can be only this weight. Okay, there should be something because this is at rest. That means there is a reaction coming from this the second book to keep it up. So you can think the reaction one. Okay, reaction coming from the book 2 to keep it still. No. Okay, so these are the two forces acting upon the what? Mass 1, and we can see what these two should be equal by this is not moving, so we can say R1 should be equal to W, or you can write R equals M1 times G. Okay, and what about the mass 2? What are the forces acting upon the mass 2? Try to do that diagram also. Okay, this is a very crucial part, drawing the correct force diagram. Depending on whether you are indicating all the necessary forces, you will be able to go through the future questions. Okay, so what basically this also has a mass, so that means this has a weight. So the weight mass 2 times gravity. That those are the forces acting upon this mass. Then what else? There should be a what? We saw that there is a resultant force, that means a reactive force on this mass one. Similarly, according to Newton's third law, what he says, for an each action, there is a equal and opposite reaction. For this force to, there should be a equal and opposite reaction. That means in the second book, there should be a force 2 applying downwards. Sorry, same reaction. R1 should be acting downwards on this body. Okay. What else? Are these the only two? No, it can't be. Why? If these are the only two forces acting upon this, what happens? This book should go down because there should be some other force. And see here, there is some interesting fact also. Try think all of you. Since there should be equal and opposite reaction for everything, as Newton says, now we get this R1 by the reaction of the mass 2. Okay. So what about this weight? Where is that reaction? Where is the reaction for this force? The weight. Where is that? There is one also. Where is it? There should be some counter force for this one also. That is in the, yeah. If we consider the earth, this is earth, and that force will come from the center of the earth. Okay. But we are not thinking about the side of the earth for this moment. So the reactive force for this force, the weight should not be considered. It's just for your information. According to the Newton's third law, there should be an equal and opposite reaction for all the forces. No? So this is the counter weight. We discussed last day how to get this force also. When two masses are attracted, how to get it? Mass 1 times mass 2 times g divided by the radius squared. Okay. So and we discussed a little secret. Don't tell to Tinuka and Nimash, okay? None of you how to attract more people. What is the secret to attract? Basically the girls, okay? How can
Yes,
we?
sir.
Yeah. Hello? Yes, Himasha, did you ask something? Okay. So there is a secret we discussed yesterday, how to attract others. Okay. You can ask from your colleagues. There is a easy way. Okay. So now the force diagram on the what? Now the force diagram of the mass 2. How to get the force diagram of the mass 2? We have marked the reaction coming from the mass 1, and there should be since this is at rest, there should be some force acting upon this upward reaction 2, which is coming from the table. Okay. Imagine. Okay, ask it later. Okay, you can learn how to attract others. Okay, so for this book, what are the forces? There is a reactive force coming from the table. So there is a R2. So if we write the equilibrium equation for this one, because this is at rest, R2 should be equal to R1 plus M2G. Okay, these are just for your information. And what about the table? If we think of the table, what are the forces acting upon this one? This force was created by the table. So similar force should be on the table by the book too. Just noting the forces of this table on the table itself here. So there is a resultive force R2. And what else? There this table also, I forgot to tell you, it's not a usual tables are heavy, no? It should have, let's say it has a mass of M3. So the weight of this table, how much? That is also acting downwards. M3 times G. And are these the only two forces acting on this table? No, can't be. Why? If there are only one forces acting on this side only, the table should go under the earth. To stop it, what is happening? There are resistive forces from the ground on these legs. Let's mark them as tension, okay, T. So these can be either equal or not, T1 and T2, okay. So the total forces will be T1 plus T2 should be equal to R2 plus M3G. Like that, you should be able to, when you see a situation, try to think of the forces, all the forces acting upon those. If not, things will not be that easy. So drawing these kind of force diagrams, visualizing these force diagrams is a must. Okay, I will give you another situation. Try to draw the force diagram separately for these also. Think this is like some sort of hanger, okay? And there is a mass here. And this hanger doesn't have any mass, but it is attached to a string tension, okay? So what are the forces acting upon this mass and the hanger? Think the body is at rest, okay? Body is at rest. So if we think of the mass one only, it has a weight. So M2, M1G is acting downward. And there should be a, since it is at rest, there should be a resistive force coming from this platform, no? So that platforms gives a resistive force of R. What about this hanger for the platform? This resistive, the same resistive force should be in the hanger by the mass R. And since it doesn't have a mass, I told you it doesn't have a mass, only the tension of this string will be here, to Tn R, like this. Okay, so basically we draw the forces in these two equations. The forces were only vertical direction, only in the vertical direction. So now let's try for a where these forces are in a horizontal direction. Think this is a trolley pulled by a motor, okay? Pulled by a it is attached by a string, okay, or a rod. Then how will be the forces acting upon this one? This is moving this direction, and the force of the engine, you take it as F, okay? And yeah, now think separately for this. This has a mass of 2 m2, this has a mass of m1. What else? Now try to figure out in your mind what will be the forces acting upon these. what will be the forces acting upon? Let's think about the mass 2. Mass 2 or the trailer. The weight of it is acting downwards, m2 times g. And there is a tension going on this rod. Let's say they are connected by a rod, okay, to carry this in this direction. And what else? There is a resistive force from the ground. And let's for the moment think there are no frictional forces from the ground or they are resistance, okay. Whatever the mass 2 here, for the mass 2, sorry, mass 1 or the engine, there is a force pulling it forward and there is a backward force operating here, and the weight of this one m1 times g, and the resistive force r2 will be here, no. See, when these in these situations, when you're dealing with connected particles, in the point of connections, okay, and if they are moving on the same directions, and if they are connected with their let's say a string or a rod, basically we will use strings and rods, you can think the ends of this, the tensions or the compressions at these ends are should be same, okay. Think of this rod here. So it should have the same tension of at the both ends. That's why we say these rods are inextensible, okay, or the strings are inextensible. Why we say they are inextensible? If they are extensible, what happens? These tensions will not be the same, okay. Then it's not, the things get a little bit complicated. To avoid those situations, we say these are inextensible rods, so the tensions at the both ends will be the same, okay. Get that idea. Unless if you just neglect that fact, there can be some circumstances where you will have difficulties in answering questions. Okay, let's try to go for a question in the exercise now. Try with the exercise 4E. Start looking at the question number 1. I will help you, okay? You just get the idea what they are asking and how to do it. Try to figure it out. Actually, teaching is not telling you some sort of many examples and I show you some sort of example and ask you to do that example of a similar kind. It's like the most ineffective teaching method. So what will be the best teaching method? I tell you there are these kind of things, and you do self study on that area. And after you do self study, for the self study part, you are dealing with questions. When you are dealing with questions, you come across problems, situations that you can't go forward. There are some what we call theories you have forgotten or you still don't know how to apply. And in those situations, you contact the teacher. If not, what is going to happen? The learning process is like we are like parrots, okay? That's not an effective method. Okay, try to understand the question number 1. What are they saying? Two particles P and Q of masses 8 kilograms and actually I forgot you to write down the Newton's third law in the page 68. Can you write down? It is said the Newton's third law of motion states that for every, yeah, not this, write it down in your book, okay? This is exercise 4E question number 1. Two particles P and Q of masses 8 kilograms and 2 kilograms respectively are connected by a light inextensible string. The particles are on a smooth horizontal plane. The horizontal force of magnitude F is applied to the particle Q in a direction away from Q. When the string is the taut, the particles move with acceleration of this much. Find the value of F. 8 and 2. See, in this question, there are a lot of data given to us, okay? You should understand for each and every words that they have used, there is a reason behind it. So try to grab all the reasons why they are telling it. There are two particles. One is 8 kilograms. And the other one is 2 kilograms. And what else they are saying? They are connected. Now see, there are two particles. One is 8, one is 2 kilograms. 8 one is P and the other one is Q, no? And they say they are connected by a light inextensible. What does it mean by light? The mass of this string, you can neglect it, because if it has a mass, then we have to apply another equations for the string. But for the moment, we don't need to consider the mass of the string. And inextensible, that means what? Because it is inextensible, we can put at these two ends, the tensions are the same. Okay, tensions acting upon these two ends should be the same. And they say there is a horizontal, they are on a horizontal smooth plane. Why they are saying it is smooth? To neglect the resistive forces, basically the frictional forces. We can neglect the frictional forces as well, because now we are going to consider a movement along the horizontal direction. There is a, and they say when the string has taut, what is mean by taut? T-A-U-T. That means the string is straight. It is not like this. Okay, it is totally straight. It's like a straight line. Okay, so when the taut string is at taut, the acceleration is 0.4 meters per square second. And they are asking what is the force of this one? How can we find it? There are two ways that we can find this force applying on it. How? We can separately apply force F equals ma to these two objects and find this one. Or you can consider this total combination, both the combination as one system and apply it. I will do the both ways, okay? But basically for this situation, applying for the complete system is the easiest method, but you should know depending on the situation what to do. Okay, first I will use the applying separately to the P and Q, F equals ma. Okay, F equals ma to P and Q separately. For the object P, what are the forces acting upon it? We don't need to consider its weight and the reactive force, because we are considering the horizontal direction. Okay, so if there is a, and they say that is opposite to the side of Q. Okay, the force of this force of F, they say F, no? Yeah. Okay, if it was in this direction, this thing is not going to be tight. Okay, so this might be the first time that you are drawing this kind of a diagram for when the data is given like that. So you get familiarized with these terms. Okay. So when we resolve the forces along this horizontal axis for the P, we got the horizontal force F in this direction, and for the P part only there is a tension acting backwards, no? F minus T should be equal to how much? Mass we know 8 times, acceleration also we know 0.4. How much? F minus T should be equal to 3.2 newtons. Okay, let's make this as equation 1. What about Q? Q also we can apply F equals ma. For Q, what is the only force acting upon this one? T only, tension only in this horizontal direction. So we can take T should be equal to how much? 2 times 0.4. How much? Tension should be equal to 0.8 newtons. We already found the tension from here, no? So now we can apply for the what? Equation 1 and find F. So if we apply for equation 1, force should be equal to how much? Tension here is 0.8. 0.8 plus 3.2. So force should be applied to this system should be 4 newtons. Now let's try to do the second way. What was our second way? Consider this as a complete system. Now I am going to apply it because at two ends this T and T going to cancel. This are when we think this system incomplete, the internal forces cancel off. Okay, the T you can consider, but they cancel off because according to Newton's third law, this T and this T is in this direction, this in the other direction, so they cancel off. So the only force outside will be force F equals how much? Mass. What is the mass of these two? 2 plus 8 times acceleration 0.4. How much we get in? 10 times 0.4. Straight away we are having 4 newtons. Okay. There are two methods that we can deal. It doesn't matter which way you are going, but you have to apply the principles in the correct order. If you are applying the theories on the wrong order, then you are not getting the correct answers. Is this clear the way that I discussed this question? Are there any things that you need to clarify that you don't understand? If you say yes, then I can finish. Okay. No one saying yes.
Yes.
Okay, Nemita. Nemita has a lot of stuff to do. Thank you. So now try to do the get on with the exercise 4E. And basically we have did almost all the theories. Okay. Now if you look at the next section for the police, there is not much of a theory. It's just application, elongation of the application. So you can do all the exercises if you have the time. If not, just at least try to do the first questions, like up to question and there are only 9 questions in the exercise 4E. Try to finish it. Okay, exercise 4E, complete it. I will discuss, not I will decide on the time scale available to us, and mostly I will at least discuss 5 or 6 questions of these 9. Now we got only 8 remaining. Okay, so guys, thank you very much. If you have any questions, now already you said no. So we can wind up, and tomorrow we will be doing PO Maths. Okay, in the school we will be doing PO Maths. So bring your PO Math books. So thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.